So why I asked you for this chat was I'm writing an article for the Indie Author magazine on building a team and outsourcing. And my editor said that you're in the process of doing that at the moment for your author business. So I wanted to ask, why are you doing that now? You've been writing for quite a long time, haven't you? So what was the trigger for you to do it now?
I've been writing for 4.5 years now, which is 4 decades in indie author terms. But I started hiring actually 2 years ago. My first part-time person, well, actually longer than that now, 2.5 years ago. I had a couple of contractors previously. I worked with them. I didn't like them. I let them go. Then we did Edinburgh, actually, and it gave me the impetus to really want to push my business a bit further. I used to run a business beforehand. So I had lots of staff and employees and everything. And a lot of it was me not wanting to hire because I was burnt out from managing for a long time. So it took me nearly a year before I went, you know what? I think I'm ready to start working with people again. And the first person I hired was Katalin, actually, Kate, that I met at Edinburgh. I saw a post about her offering PA services to someone else. And I went, hey, I know you, I like you. And so we talked about it in Vegas. And I went from there. And then towards the end of last year, I decided that I had enough, well, actually I had a lot more work than normal, that it made sense for me to go and get another full-time employee for it. And so I went hunting for a full-time employee, found someone. She left after like 3-4 months because she wanted to pursue further education. And then I started a rehiring process a few months ago, found someone I found 2 people actually that I decided that I was going to give one part-time and one full-time. The full-time person decided that she couldn't work after a week. And I've been running off this part-time person who I changed to full-time just because there's so much work involved. And then I started hiring again for this last one, which is a marketing role. What I did was when I looked at it is I was hiring for a publishing, which I thought I was going to make them do everything, marketing, publishing, formatting, all of that. And then I looked at the job and I realized that it was easier and it made more sense to split it. Have one person do publishing and all of the formatting, translations, updates, and everything else that happens with indie author business, and have someone dedicated purely to marketing. And that's what I'm hiring now, which is a pure marketing person.
Oh, that's very interesting. When you say full-time, are you talking about paying them like by 40 hours a week, or are you a monthly?
40 hours a week, a full salary, the whole works.
Oh my God.
I have a company.
Right. Wow. Did you find it hard to let go of control of the tasks? Because that is always the thing where you go, by the time I explain it to someone else, I'll do.
Not really. Again, I'm in a unique position in that I have been running my own business for a decade and a half now or something. So I've always had to, not always, but like the last decade and a bit, I've had to learn to give up control over things and hand off things. In particular with the publishing assistant work, formatting and everything like that, personally, I am horrible at details. I hire my publishing assistants for detailed work. They do all the detailed work for me because I hate that work. I can do it, but I hate it with a passion. So I am more than happy to, once they're trained up, just give it to them. And I have to say, Kate has been a god. She's actually a contractor. She's contracted to me. So she contracts to me because she's in Hungary and she sets her own time and she has her other clients and so on and so forth. So she's contracted, but she's so much of an integral part of my business kind of thing that it feels like she's an employee in a sense, and she's amazing. She's very detail oriented, much better than anything I could hope for. And so she helps really keep my other publishing assistant on board and running with tasks and whatnot.
So she's like a project manager.
She is. She does a lot of the work as well, but she helps project manage things to some extent. We use Trello as a job board. So we throw up a lot of the jobs up on that so people can mark off what they've done, when what's not done, what's not. We also use Discord for random. Okay, Tao has a lot of random ideas or random tasks throughout the day. So I throw it up on Discord and I'll tag someone and say, hey, you need to do this.
So did you initially, when you started this process, did you break down the jobs and identify which components needed to be done and push it out to the contractors, or your employees, or did they come back and say, okay, this is how we like to do it?
I've always done it the other way. So I know which tasks I want to give to people and I give it to them. So it's a lot of, especially with publishing, the publishing side of it, they're very discrete tasks, right?
Yeah.
Uploading, shifting my posts from Patreon to my website, updating my Patreon posts. These are all very discrete works. Even if certain projects are very discrete, my Kickstarter project that's coming up, I can say, okay, you need to do this, you need to update this. This is a very specific thing that you need.
Do you have an onboarding process, a formal one, a training process?
No, that's probably something I need to do. It's interesting. With the publishing side of it, especially, I have certain things that we train people on. But it's a very almost on an ad hoc basis. Okay, you need to learn how to update this. Let's go through, here's a Zoom meeting, here's how you do it, blah, 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 blah. It's in our new employee doing the publishing one, who's like a full-time one right now, is brand new. So she doesn't have the background that someone like Kate, who has a publishing background, indie publishing background, would have. So when we talk about KDP, it's one of those weird things where what we use and our software is specialized that 99% of the world is never going to know about it.
Yes.
AMS is the same thing when we're hiring for marketing people. Seller Central has their own advertising system, but it's slightly different from AMS. Finding someone who has specifically AMS ad experience, you can forget it. I have some training stuff for the marketing stuff. I have Zoom videos that I have created where I have trained other people and I just recorded it. So then I have it inside my file folder. And we probably should do that more for each of the other stuff on a more ongoing basis so that people can go, hey, this is what you need to know. You can just watch this for 20 minutes.
That is actually a really clever idea.
Yeah, I probably should talk to them about doing that. I have that for Facebook marketing and AMS, just the very basic stuff. But I need to do that more for other processes and formatting and whatnot. We do have policy and procedure documents for things like formatting. We have this is how you format, this is the minimum requirements, this is the print designations and whatnot. We have the same things for certain types of regular tasks. So like Patreon uploads, here's what you need to do. Here's the documentation. I'm a big fan of documentation because of my previous work experience where I've had a lot of people come and go, having all these documents on hand. Even if you do physical training and show them everything, having that document somewhere where they can access and they can read through it later, it suits some people just don't learn by showing them. If you give them a book or a document, they are much better at learning. It also is a reference thing. If you only do this like once a month, I upload a new book. These days I upload much faster because I do shorts now. But if you're only releasing a book every 3 months, it's easy to forget things. So having a checklist and a document.
How close do you let your team to sensitive information? Do you give them like your logins for your website and Amazon?
They all have access to certain logins, and I do that via LastPass. So they all have access to the shared folder to get access to all the logins to all of these things, and they can look into it without a problem. But they can't change the passwords. They don't know what the passwords are, and I can just remove them like that.
Okay.
They do have access. Most of them have access to because of the way Amazon is set up, they do have access to things like my income and whatnot. And obviously, when they get hired on, they have an NDA and whatnot. But it's very hard to break out certain tasks, like uploading, updating the stuff, using things like reader links or draft to digital data reports or book reports or whatever, without giving people this information. And it's something that I think Amazon desperately needs to change. I would love to not be able to not give people full access to my information on stuff, but it is what it is.
But you do have legal documentation and contracts and NDAs.
Yeah, all of that is signed in beforehand.
Did you do that from the very first employee you had, or did that just develop?
Oh yeah, again, I have all of this documentation from my previous company for NDAs and whatnot. So it was easy enough to just change a few terms and terminology and then go, hey, here you go. Sign this, please. This is your employment contract. It does have a basic NDA in it. NDA is a nice little document and it reinforces for people what your expectations are. But unless you're really expecting to go after them in the court of law, and a lot of NDAs aren't even applicable depending on the country and where they are and whatnot. It's a contract, it's a piece of paper. Unless you're willing to enforce it, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So if you do not trust the person that you're working with, don't hire them. If you feel a little squirrely about them, walk away. There's 1,000,001 suppliers out there, money to go and enforce this.
Have you had any really bad experiences?
With employees? Not really bad. As an indie author, no. The people I've had are great for the most part. I've not had a lot of people as an indie author. So it's not as if it's a big pool to pull from.
Absolutely. So, I mean, just to come to the end, is there any advice you can give people how to start out finding employees?
For me right now, I look at it as defining what I want from people and what my expectations will be. Figure out what tasks you are giving away first. Figure out what level of trust you have or are willing to give out. There's certain tasks like social media stuff where personally, I am more leery of giving out my social media stuff to some extent, like Twitter or my fan page to some extent, updates on that, than I would be with, say, getting someone to upload my books. Because for me, the social media stuff is, so I have to be very careful about that. And so things like that, you have to define where you're going with that and what you're willing to give. Once you have that, then you have to define the level of experience and how much training you're willing to give someone. There are contractors who do this. And the best part about the contractors is that they generally know all this stuff. Just like Kate knew what Amazon ads, what book funnel is, whatever. Yeah, I don't have to train them.
Yeah.
So the contractors are great like that. If you can find indie authors who want to do that's great as well. Figuring that part out. You need to know your laws. Canada has this is again a Canadian thing. Canada is very specific about what a contractor is and what an employee is. So when I work with Kate, I have to be very careful about the kind of things I can ask her to do or the kind of things I can say, like holidays or time off, whatever. I don't care. Don't talk to me about that. You are a contractor. I have nothing to do with that. If you want to work at midnight, that's your problem. I give you tasks. You do the task. So you have to know your laws to some extent. And this is a very Canadian thing. I know the US is different. The UK might be different, but know those laws. You do not want to run into trouble. It's a very unlikely because we're tiny people. Yeah. But if it happens, it can become a problem. But also know if you want to hire indie authors who know all of this stuff, but might not be professionals. The difference between the PAs whose entire task is doing PA stuff compared to an indie author who does PA stuff. But you know what? If their book hits huge and they're selling like 1 million copies, they're going to drop you like a hot potato. And that's a risk you have to take. So deciding stuff like that, splitting it up. If you're hiring outside of this entire indie author world, if you're hiring someone outside, then you have a lot more training to do. But if you're hiring them full time, the theory is that you are going to have them on for a long time and you can train them and you can get them up to the processes the way that you want them to do it for yourself.
That's brilliant. Listen, thank you so much for your time, Tao.
You're welcome.
You're the best. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.